Welcome, everyone. My name is Maria Dismondi, and I am the publisher at Cardinal Rule Press. And it is thrilling to be with you today to introduce the creative souls who have worked together to bring this new picture book into the world. So, first, I would like to introduce Lee Wind, who is the author of this book. Would you like to say hello, Lee?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee. I'm really excited. It's the book birthday, and you're here to celebrate with us. So thank you.
And where are you zooming in from, Lee?
Los Angeles, California.
Fantastic. Awesome. And then Kelly Mangan, who is the illustrator of this beautiful piece. Welcome, Kelly. Oops, there you go.
Hi, everybody. I am zooming in from Burlington, Vermont, and thanks so much for having me. And thanks for celebrating like that, Eleanor.
Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for our creatives at the end of our program today, keep those questions coming. You can put them in the chat ahead of time. I'm going to be your facilitator. If you have any questions as we go on, I will be monitoring the chat. And we asked that we keep everything kind and positive here as we celebrate today. I also would like to introduce Tori, who is our American Sign Language interpreter today. Welcome, Tori. Where are you zooming in from?
Hello, everyone. I am zooming in from Ohio.
Fantastic. You're going to be doing something special with our characters. Can you explain that to everyone zooming in?
Today, I will be interpreting, and we have many characters that are fun and enjoyable in the book. And we will be assigning sign names for Eleanor, who is child Eleanor, and that will be Eleanor like this for her freckles. And then we have Eleanor Roosevelt, and we will give her the sign name of Eleanor because she was a very proud person. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, and the reason we invite Tori here, and we've had American Sign Language interpreters at most of our book releases, is because we want all children to be able to have access to our messages in our books, and this allows even more children to be able to be here. All right, so now, Lee, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to hide myself and mute myself. Let's begin this exciting day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. Okay, so we get to start. We're going to start with reading the book. So I'm imagining that we're all in a virtual circle on Zoom, and here we go. Like that, Eleanor, the amazing power of being an ally. Written by me, Lee Wind, illustrated by Kelly, who's here with us. Kelly Mangan. I'm very excited. Oh, I'm going to take the jacket, the slipcover off, because it just makes it easier to hold. Okay. Here's the title page and dedications. Oh, actually, I'm going to read the dedication that I wrote, and then I'm going to invite Kelly to read the dedication that Kelly wrote. Okay, so my dedication is for all the kids who were told you don't fit in, you do. Kelly, would you read your dedication, please?
I'd be happy to. This one's to my kids. It says to Malcolm and Kieran, when the world tells you that you're an absolute weirdo, look it in the eyes and moo like a cow.
All right, let's get into the story. I'm Eleanor. My dad's named me after Eleanor Roosevelt, who was really famous. She was all about making things more fair. I want to make things more fair too. Yo, a little help. Kick it back. Can I play? Nah, it's boys only. Duh. But sometimes things are so unfair, I don't know what to say. When I tell Poppy, he says, back when Eleanor Roosevelt was married to the president, only men reporters were allowed to go to the important meetings. So that Eleanor started her own important meetings just for women reporters. Wow, I say, she was smart. Poppy bumps my nose with his. You are too, Eleanor. Maybe someday I'll know what to say. Maybe someday I can be more like that Eleanor. Excuse you, this conversation is just for girls. But sometimes things are so unfair, I don't know what to do. When I tell my dads, we watch a video about this famous singer who wasn't allowed to sing at a fancy theater because she was black. What a voice! Eleanor Roosevelt arranged for a special concert outside the Lincoln Memorial. Because of that, Eleanor, a lot more people got to hear Marian Anderson sing. And this is a little sound bubble of Marian Anderson singing. And she used to trill her voice like um, liberty was liberty. I won't try it. Listen to it on YouTube. It's amazing. I wish I could be more like that, Eleanor. But sometimes things are so unfair, I don't know how to help. When I tell Daddy, he rolls up his sleeve. I love how Eleanor Roosevelt got the whole world to agree that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. You can see there's a tattoo on his arm that says those words. Our daughter is too young for a tattoo, Poppy comes in laughing. But those words inspire me too. That night, we read a book about Eleanor Roosevelt, and I dream I could be more like that Eleanor. All right, everybody, Miss Galton announces, we're going to play a game to get to know each other better. Please line up your chairs, boys on this side of the classroom, girls on that side. Everybody scrambles, except for Star, who looks like they're about to cry. I try to think what to do. I remember the story from last night's book. Eleanor Roosevelt went to a town where everything was segregated. She showed up at a big meeting where people were talking about how to make things more fair. If she sat with the white folks, it would be like she agreed everybody shouldn't sit all together. But sitting with the black folks was against the rules. She walked up the aisle. With everybody watching, she unfolded her chair and did something nobody expected. Eleanor, Star, Miss Galton says, could you please get in line? Star looks at me, eyes asking if I'm going to help them or not. This time, I know what to do. I'm not famous, but everybody is watching as I grab my chair and drag it. Not to the girl's side, not to the boy's side, but somewhere new. And then, like that, Eleanor, I sit in the middle. Star smiles like when it's a cold day and the sun comes out. Then they grab their chair and join us. Oh, we don't need to be divided. Not here, not there, not anywhere. And I love how the new signs the kids do for the bathroom say everybody and everybody. The way my friends and I see it, if all of us are in the middle, then all of us belong. Let's play. And together, we can make things more fair, like that, Eleanor.
Fantastic. I see a round of applause from the audience. Thank you. A round of applause. Yes, wonderful. Wow, so powerful and just needed in our world today. And, such a beautiful resource, not only for children, but for families and for teachers and caregivers. So, we are going to go into our question and answer. First, let's talk with Lee and Kelly. Kelly, let's make sure that you unmute yourself.
Always good.
Yes, thank you. Lee, tell us a little bit on where you got the inspiration for the book, and then we're going to ask Kelly a little bit about, how did you begin the framework of designing this character?
Kelly did such a beautiful job. So exciting to see every time. Okay, so I'm gay, and uh, I was closeted for a long time, from age 11 to age 25. I was hiding who I was, and then I finally sort of came out and to myself and to others. And what I've learned on my journey is that being being a gay of the LGBTQIA2 plus queer community, that my job is to be an ally to everybody else represented by all of those letters. And in addition to women and people of color and disabled people and indigenous people, to everybody that is sort of not getting an opportunity in our culture. And so being an ally is a really important thing to me. And then this is not my first book for kids. I've done some other picture books, and I've also done some nonfiction books. And one of them is this one, No Way They Were Gay. And in it, there's a whole chapter about Eleanor Roosevelt and how she was in love with another woman, Lorena Hickok. And doing the research on Eleanor Roosevelt, I learned all these amazing stories of Eleanor Roosevelt being an ally to other communities, like that story about like when she became first lady and her husband was FDR was the president of the United States, and the press conferences that he had, they wouldn't allow women reporters in. It was only for male reporters. And she thought that was really unfair. And I loved the creativity of her allyship, right? She didn't fight it in a loud way. She just decided she was going to create her own meetings, her own press briefings, but she would only allow women reporters to come. And this was really cool because it forced all the news agencies to hire women reporters. So I loved that example of allyship. And there were a bunch of cool ones. And so these two things were sort of like sitting with me. And then my husband and I, we have a daughter. She's an adult now, but like kids notice when things are unfair. And it became we had a lot of discussions with our child as she was growing up about her witnessing unfair things and talking about like what are the ways that it you could make things more fair. And I feel like as adults, we have this idea that like, oh, well, you have to wait to be an adult to try to make things more fair. And that's just totally not true. I think kids have a lot of power and a lot of agency. And so these two very different ideas, right? Like all these cool ways that Eleanor Roosevelt was an ally, and the idea of like, how can a child be empowered to make things more fair finally came together after like many, many, many drafts. And in fact, like here is the folder of all the drafts printed out of like that Eleanor. And honestly, like the actual final draft is like 3 pages long. So this just gives you a sense of how many drafts there were. Um, and that's sort of how like that Eleanor came about.
Wonderful. I've never seen your draft folder. That's quite amazing. Thank you for sharing. I think authors need to see that. It's not just one and done. There's a lot of work that goes into
This was not the first draft. This is like draft 82.
People
Kelly.
don't realize how much work goes into drafting a picture book because they think it's so short. Well, how much work could it be? But it can be a lot more work in some respects because you have so few words in which to communicate uh, these complex ideas, which I think Lee did so brilliantly in the text of this book. So
Yeah, Kelly, tell us, you were handed the manuscript and what were your first thoughts and what had you, creating the story? What got you started?
Well, I read the manuscript and I was so excited that I immediately emailed my agent and I'm like, oh my God, I love this. I can't wait to get started on this. It just, my background prior to getting involved in writing and illustrating children's books was in activism. I was a union organizer, so this kind of spoke to my heart in that sense. I'm also a bisexual woman, and I'm the mom of a non-binary kid. So there were so many elements of this that were that spoke to me, and the way that we talk about making change, I think, can be very intimidating sometimes, not just for kids, but for people in general. A lot of people look at historic figures and they think, oh, I'm not a great person like that. I'm not a special person. And they don't realize that even small actions can have a big impact and make a big difference to somebody else. You don't have to be famous, like it says in the text, in order to be an ally. And we had a great conversation, Lee and I, with on a podcast recently where we were talking about that idea of allyship and how it's. And Lee said, I think that allyship is an action. It's actions that we take. It's not something that you are or aren't. It's something that you continually have to commit yourself to. And that's just an idea that I tried to work into the visuals of this as much as possible. I started with the color palette, which I pulled from the non-binary flag. So you see a lot of purple and yellow repeated, and black repeated in the book. And I also incorporated a lot of textiles, in part because I love textiles. Um, Sort of the running joke in my art is like I always have to work in plaids somehow, which, is hilarious. But I also realized in doing a lot of research for this book that Eleanor Roosevelt loved to knit. And a lot of times you'll find historic pictures of her at meetings and conferences and things with knitting needles in her hand. And even her official White House portrait included, there is the bust of her, and then at the bottom there was a picture of her hands knitting. So the artist thought it was so important and integral to her personality that they included it there. So I wanted to give young Eleanor a similar hobby, and I noticed that a lot of the kids in my children's elementary school were picking up crocheting and crocheting like little bobbins and things for their backpacks. And I thought, okay, that works. It's not big needles and things, which you probably wouldn't be allowed to bring to school. Um, but it's something that she can be teaching to other kids as she's gathering them in and creating this community. I also just like the symbolism of uh, taking disparate elements like different pieces of yarn and weaving them together into something beautiful. So that was kind of my approach to that.
I'm so glad
I
you
love
shared
so
that. Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
I was just going to say I love so many things you did with the illustrations, Kelly. In particular, I wanted it to feel like even though she didn't know what to say or what to do, she was collecting friends. Child Eleanor was sort of collecting friends on the journey throughout the book, and you did that so beautifully, and it was so fun to see that come to life. And also, you did so much research for the visuals and on Eleanor Roosevelt that you included a quote about Eleanor Roosevelt, and I think you should read it because it's amazing
Oh, yeah.
on the back cover.
Oh, that's where it went.
Inside the dust jacket, and it's also on the dedication page, I think.
Oh my gosh. Okay, there it is. We do not have to become heroes overnight, just a step at a time, meeting each thing that comes up, seeing it as not as dreadful as it appeared, discovering that we have the strength to stare it down. That was
Oh,
an Eleanor Roosevelt quote that I found online, and then I think it was Lee or maybe it was Maria said, "What's the source of that?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that we should know that." And I could not. I looked everywhere. I could not find the source. And this is where librarians come to the rescue. I went to the University of Vermont library and I said, "I have a mystery. I am seeing this quote attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt, but I can't find the original source. Can you?" And they found it, and they not only did they find the book that it came from, which was a book of her collected writings, like a compilation of her collected writings that she put together. They also photocopied the page and sent it to me. So librarians rule. Thank goodness for
li-
librarians.
librarians are the best. That's a great. Yes, it was me. I want every quote from history to be an actual quote with a
Important.
source. Maria, back me up on this. Just it's so important that um, people who are interested can go and find it and read more. It's like it's being a detective, and you can trace the trail back through the source notes, and it's one of my favorite things about history.
I think it's important too. Yeah, as we teach children about news and about facts and true or untrue. So I loved that you were able to find that with the help of your librarian. Thank you, Kelly. Do we have any questions from our audience? I think both of you shared your inspiration, which is always very important, and some special things about the book. Ali, could you speak just for a moment about the end pages
Uh, yeah, wait,
or the back matter? I'm sorry.
the back matter. Okay,
Yep.
I'm like the end pages are beautiful
They
clouds, Maria. What
are.
more
They're
would you like to
clouds.
know about So there's a pretty extensive author's note because I wanted people to know that um, all the stories that were referenced about Eleanor Roosevelt in the book are actually true, and with source notes on where to find more if you were curious. Um, Arranging for Marian Anderson to perform outside the Lincoln Memorial. Actually, you should watch the YouTube video with your kiddos. It's remarkable. And she had such an old-fashioned sort of like trained operatic voice. She trilled the notes. It's wild. Um, she also the tattoo that one of the dads has. That is from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and she really did in 1938 um, attend a meeting in Birmingham, Alabama. That it was like a 3-day meeting, and the second day, the first day, everyone was sitting with everyone else, and then the second day, the government of that municipality brought in police and enforced that like white people were sat on one of the sides and black people sat on the other. And Eleanor Roosevelt came and she literally brought a chair. And there's an oral history about it. It's amazing. And they're like, she walked up the aisle, she unfolded her chair, and she put it in the middle of the aisle because she was not going to be, she was going to creatively be an ally. And I just that was such a cool story. And actually, the very first version of this manuscript was called something like Eleanor Sits in the Middle. And but then it kind of felt like we were giving away the whole like twist with the title. So I think like that Eleanor felt like more resonant over time. And then there's this very cool page which sort of talks about how kids can be well, anyone can be an ally too. And it goes over we sort of broke it down like what are the parts of being an ally. An ally notices things that are unfair. An ally asks how they can help. An ally listens. An ally helps in ways they can. An ally speaks with, not for, the people who are affected by the unfairness. An ally gathers others to join the effort to make things more fair. And an ally is a friend. And it's really sweetly illustrated by Kelly. And it's almost like a little poster.
Oh, don't get me started. It could be a poster. I like that.
Oh, there's an idea.
It could be a
Classroom
poster.
poster.
It could. We have some positive feedback that I wanted to share. We had someone comment that they love how much nonfiction information there is in a story and how it's the perfect way to ease children into being interested in nonfiction. I love the details and facts in the author's notes. In these times, being upfront with the facts is very helpful. And we have a question. Do either Lee or Kelly have real examples from their life of allyship that you are able to share with the group?
You want to
Uh,
go first, Kelly?
Go ahead. Let me marinate on it for a second.
Sure. I'll share a funny story. So, as I mentioned, my husband and I, we have a daughter, and one of her favorite snacks was these sort of like frozen chicken tender things that weren't actually chicken because I'm a vegetarian. And long story. Anyway, the packaging on it was like the, you know, it actually the packaging said, um, "Hey, moms, this is the perfect snack for your kids." And my daughter has two dads. She doesn't have a mom. And this really irked her because she felt like it excluded us as our family. So this was, I think she was in fifth grade. She wrote a letter to the company and she was like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that, this this isn't the best language you could have chosen because not every kid has a mom. And maybe you could and we worked with her on it, right? But it was really her engine of making it happen. Maybe you could come up with more inclusive language that doesn't exclude people." And she sent it off as an email, and we never really heard anything back. But then, like a year later, we noticed on the same packaging that they had changed the language, and it was just like, "Hey, here's a great snack for after school." And
That's cool.
so I thought that was a cool moment of allyship.
That's
That's
wonderful, especially for having a fifth grader take action. And that's exactly what you're trying to say here, both Kelly and Lee, that you don't have to be a grown-up to be an ally. Anyone can be empowered to be an ally, and that's a wonderful example. Kelly?
And it,
Oh, yep.
Go
I was
ahead.
just going to add, and it doesn't have to be aggressive or mean or put you in a moment of conflict. It can just be, there's a lot of calling out in our culture right now, and I think that calling in is actually way more effective, at least in my personal experience. I think that there's definitely moments to march and to protest, and I think yes, 100%. Um, and I also think that you can affect change sometimes by calling someone in and being like, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that maybe there's a different way of doing this, and this is how this made me feel."
Mhm.
I have a wonderful example real quickly. Is that okay, Kelly?
Please.
Yeah.
We were in a panel a few months ago, and I addressed the audience as ladies and gentlemen. And I was not called out. I was called in a private message by someone in the panel who said, not wanting to call you out, but this is another way that you can address an audience that makes everyone feel included. So, hey, readers, hey, writers, because we were addressing a group of readers and writers. And I now, since then, I am very intentional when I am addressing a group. I just spoke at a conference, IBPA, and I welcomed everyone in the room as creatives instead of saying ladies and gentlemen. So, calling in is really important, and you can do it in a way that doesn't make anyone feel bad.
Mhm. Yeah. I think probably a recent example of allyship that I could share is a few months ago, my kid was being bullied for being non-binary at school. I did not know that this was happening for a while because they didn't share it with me until, I guess they eventually did. And I said, how long has this been going on? And they said, I don't know, maybe it's happened maybe 20 times. And I'm like, that's a lot, friend. Like that's, I wish you had told me. And they said, it's a younger kid and I felt like I could handle it, but I think maybe I can. I'm like, okay. So we reached out to the school about it, and credit to them, they did not mess around. They dealt with the issue, and the kid that was making the comments to my kid was sort of assigned a special project with the school librarian where they had to sit down and read a bunch of LGBT picture books with them. And then they had to create a project about LGBT kids. So I thought that was a really not just a great way for the school and the educators at my kids' school to be an ally to them, but also a way of trying to address the bullying that taught that kid something, and didn't put all the burden of emotional labor on like my kid to teach them or to be the one having to always stand up for themselves. So I was very appreciative to the educators and the librarian and the school administrators for how they handled that.
That's really cool. And I love that. I mean, I think the reason books are being challenged so much is that they're empathy machines and
Mhm.
they help us see the humanity and all that we share with people that on the outside might look very different than we do. And I think books are so powerful, and I'm so proud of this one.
Me too.
And me three. Wow. Yes. And this is a resource. This is a guide. This is everything that we need in our world. So thank you, Lee and Kelly, and for our audience here today. And Tori, thank you so much for including your expertise in your translation today. I would like to sign off by asking, we do this every time we have a virtual book reading. I would like to ask everyone to please unmute, and we're going to give a big round of applause to our creative team. Thank you so much, everyone. Big round of applause. Hello,
That's
Adam. Yay!
beautiful book.
Hey.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank
Yay!
you.
Thank you, Lee and Kelly and everyone. We appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us. We'll send out some resources in a follow-up email, including a link to the video that Lee was talking about on YouTube.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.